first of all, congratulations on
Thank you.
the awards you've got so far. The game really does look incredible.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's always great to come to E3 and have something on the wall outside your door.
Yeah.
Just goes to show people are listening to you and watching you. It's good.
We got a couple of questions in actually. One from a long-time fan. It's quite a controversial question, but I feel I should ask it anyway. The campaign statement, "Forget everything you know about Tomb Raider," is fairly insulting to long-time fans of the series that followed in Lara's footsteps from the beginning. She said her genesis and history cannot be erased merely by asking players to forget or disregard it. Do you agree or disagree with this statement?
So, when we decided to give a statement like that out there and say, forget everything you think you knew, it was meant in a very positive sense, and it still is. We are very, very honoured to have had the opportunity and still to work on a franchise that has been one of the very first franchises in video game history. It's 15 years old, and that can't be unwritten, and nor do we want to. We really, and you can see from the way in which we present the game and the way in which we talk about the game, that we always look back at Tomb Raiders of yesteryear and make sure that we can draw comparisons. But I just think our statement of "forget everything you think you knew" is more about, we want to take you back to an origin story and rebuild it back up. You will start to come across things that you feel, I remember that in Tomb Raider, and I remember what Lara Croft stood for, and she still has those attributes. But I think it's a very strong statement to make people sit up and take note that we're trying to be fresh and dynamic and new in our approach to this new Tomb Raider. And it doesn't mean to, it shouldn't mean anything negative, other than we are really willing to do whatever it takes to bring this to life.
Yeah.
So I don't want people feeling like it's going to be an amalgamation of 10 different games. It really is still identifiably Tomb Raider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. One of the things I did notice from the demo that we saw yesterday was, I know you're going for a very cinematic feel with the game, but what it felt was as though you were watching a movie that you got to play very small parts of. Is the entire game?
No, the important factor of the way in which we've built the arc of the character and the game is that, again, getting back to the analogies of what movies have done in the past, by bringing you closer to the person and the story, we want to spend an element of time introducing you to the world, the characters, Lara, the island. To do that, you want to have a very specific story so that you feel like, okay, now I understand, now I'm there along for the ride with her. As we start to unfold some of the different sort of storylines and beats, we pull back and we really get into action adventure land, where you won't need them as much. But right now we're telling the story. Think before Batman ever put on his mask, he went to see Ra's al Ghul and ended up doing all these things. That's a journey. That's something that you have to go on in order to feel like, you've taken me to this breaking point where she's had to kill somebody. You've taken me to a point where I've seen something in her that I've never seen before. And to do that, you have to have a level of cinematics to be able to immerse you into that. And I think that in relation to a movie playing a game, I think just the quality of gameplay, when I demoed it yesterday, I play it in a very particular way because we're managing the camera. We want to make sure that it's a seamless transition from one to the other.
Yeah.
So I think when players play it themselves and they have the opportunity to sort of break off and run around and play it in their own way, you'll quickly realize that the game is still there. There's still meat on the bones. It's not all cinematic by any means.
What I thought as well was when you were playing, I thought perhaps the movement of the camera just made it feel as though it was more cinematic, but you were really still controlling.
Yeah, you're really still controlling Lara. Obviously, I've played it and demoed it a lot of times. So to me, I'm very particular about where the camera is to frame the shot and sort of how you're walking through the space and the speed at which she walks and runs. But I think when you pick up the controls yourself, you'll quickly realize, that's just me personally how I demo it. Everybody demos it slightly differently.
So one thing you've said that you really want to achieve from this game is a high level of realism, especially in regards to Lara and her health on the island. One thing I noticed was she did seem to be able to jump from quite quite a high level, and she didn't seem to take any damage. And obviously, you can't forget the bear trap. How did it not break her leg?
Yeah, so we mustn't forget, it's a video game,
Yeah.
right? And that there's certain things that when you talk about realism, what you want from that is a certain amount of realism that you feel is bringing you an emotion. Like the first kill is a scene that, as it plays out, you very rarely see that in video games. And that's a realism that you don't ever want to have to go through personally yourselves. But that aside, when you're playing a video game, it's like, would a 21-year-old ever have to be thrust into a situation where she needs to pick up a machine gun and start firing people? You have to have those areas that you feel like, okay, she jumped 6 feet, not taking damage. If she jumped 26 feet, she takes damage. When she gets shot more than 4 or 5 times, she will die. But if you were to be shot once, like you did in real life, and you were to die, or you were to jump off 6 foot and break your leg, it wouldn't be a video game.
Yeah.
So there are certain lines that you feel you accept and you're happy to blur. But yeah, we do have to be very careful that there are certain instances that don't continually extract you from it, where people go, she didn't do that. But there are things that you kind of have to look beyond.
In regards to that scene where she shot the guy in the head, how difficult was it for you to decide to show that graphic detail and the language being used in the game as well? That must have been a fairly difficult decision for you to bring in, especially considering fan base, a very large percentage of the younger audience there as well.
Yeah, I think we made the decision very early on that in order to tell a tale of survival on an island like this, one, we had to move into an M-rated space, and we couldn't treat it with kid gloves. You can't have a moment like that play out in a T-rated world because you wouldn't have the emotion. And for us, we worked long and hard studying and researching, not just the development of the game, but also our audiences. And when we look at the audience, after 15 years of Tomb Raider being about, I played Tomb Raider when I was 18, 19. I want to show I'm trying to figure out, because I was 37 yesterday, so 21. There we go. Ta-da. So yeah, so when I played that, at that time, that's what it was all about, right? So we've moved on, and we have to bring a sense of realism for today. You have to be willing to sort of take that step. Is the M-rated? People have grown up, right? If I had been 13 playing Tomb Raider 1, it's 15 years ago. I'm now into my 30s, and although we still have a very young audience, I think you also have to look at the people who are enamored by Tomb Raider, who've played it for a long, long time. That audience has grown up, and also audiences and gamers across the world have been exposed to more than just video games now, and emotion delivered in a way which goes beyond anything we've ever seen. You watch a Game of Thrones or a Breaking Bad, or you watch a movie now, and you see a level of emotion and connection with the character you've never had before. And it's important that we make sure that we deliver that same sort of feeling when you play the game, that it's not just treated with kid gloves and plays out in a very soft T-rated world. The story itself is about a girl trying to survive on an island where she's been hunted down and people are trying to kill her. So you have to kind of make sure you bring that to life and make it feel real.
One of the things that the original series offered in quite an abundance was a real sense of fear and anticipation in certain areas in the game. From seeing the demo, this does seem to be a reoccurring theme within your game. Was this something that was quite important to you, striking fear and suspense into the game?
Yeah, definitely, right? It's the unknown. She has no idea where this place is, what happened. She just, she was unconscious 1 minute and came back around, hung upside down. There has to be the elements of fear, of course, to sort of feel like, she's been driven by many things, not just because she's been hunted down, but also the fear of just naturally what's going on around me, like what the hell is this place? And that's very important. Now, that has to be brought in and then peppered and then sort of take it to a point where it feels real throughout the rest of the game, so that it's not that all the way through. She just becomes stronger. She becomes the action adventure hero. Things happen that make her character grow, and you feel differently for her as the game progresses. So the tension and those big moments, you have to have them in, right? That's what it's all about.
Yeah,
you have to have those in the story. So, for us, certainly at the beginning of the game, you see more than most any other part of the game, because it's about setting the story and the character and the world.
This was another thing that made it feel sort of like a movie as well. I mean, are we to expect some scenes in there that are really going to make a jump out of our seat, sort of thing?
Yeah, there's a couple of scenes where not only will you jump out of your seat, but you'll also sit back and put the controller down and go, "Oh my god!" Right? Because that's what it's all about. If we can immerse ourselves into something for 10+ hours, and we can have those types of emotions play out, it's a pretty special thing.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a pretty special thing for a video game, a medium that's still young compared to movies and TV shows, to be able to deliver. And there's very few games out there that have delivered that. There's probably a handful I can remember that stick with me forever and a day, that I put the controller down and went, "Oh my god." And halfway through BioShock, for me, was one of those moments, where everything flipped over and I was like, "Oh my god, the guy that was supposed to be helping me has now turned out to be evil dude. Oh shit." So that's what we're trying to create.
Yeah, good. What can you tell us about the enemies in the game? I mean, we've seen quite a lot so far, but I remember that one of the initial leaked concept pieces seemed to be some sort of, let's say, supernatural beings, akin to something from Silent Hill. Did they make it into the game? They didn't. It's purely human enemies in this game.
The big thing with us is that we want to make sure that it still feels real, right? And these scavengers have been living on this island for a very long time, and she's telling us you got one last question. So these characters have been these scavengers have been living on this island for a very long time, and they too were like Lara and the crew, washed up on shore and sort of left for dead, and they had to create a structure where they could live on the island. Although they can't get off, they're trying to find out what the hell's going on too. They're a little bit different. They're a little more evil. And as you play the game, you'll start to see exactly what that means and who they are. But we're excited to be able to get into that. But right now, we've set the tone for them, let's say.
The last question then would be, pushing back the release date was a pretty bold move, especially after Mike Fisher's claim that the game is so good that you could actually release it now. Obviously you're going to be refining and polishing the game, but what can you do that the 9 months, the decision for you?
So Mike was probably right? In past years, we probably would have gotten to this point and said, "Let's ship it, let's put it in the box, it's awesome." But we made a promise to make sure that if we reimagined this, we would do right. We would make sure that it was the best game we could possibly deliver. To us, it's the game of our careers. You very seldom see an opportunity in the video game industry to reimagine a video game in a way that has credibility, in a way that allows us to show the birth of a character that has been around for so long. It really is a very important thing for us, and we didn't just want to rush that out. Right? We spent a number of years doing this, and to just throw it out there amongst all the other titles kind of it affected us a little bit, to sort of say that we spent so much time making this, and what it means to us is that by bringing it to March, we had the opportunity to do things that very few games get to do, and that's play the game a lot, see what makes sense, and see whether or not there are small tweaks and storylines that can be shored up and made feel a little bit more engaging. So it only does us good. We've built in a great amount of time for polishing the game and bringing things to life. But I think now with this amount of time, it allows us to be able to do things we very, very rarely get to do in the video game industry, and that's really pick apart and analyze what we've done and start to make sure that things make sense. So yeah, March 5th is the right date for us, and I know it's a little bit longer than everybody wants, but it'll be worth it.
I hate tombs.